Hello, and welcome again to Project Re3 Church here in Kernersville, North Carolina. My name is Mike Giannopoulos, and I'm the lead pastor here. And I just thought I would take some time this morning and maybe the next several mornings and just kind of share with the world our story, who we are, how we got to be here, what we're all about. Every January, I teach a course called, essentially, it's Re3 101. Or Intro to Project Re3. And it's for anyone who's started attending a Re3 worship gathering or participating in some of our missional or outreach events, for them to come and kind of sit down as a group and hear over a 10 or 12 week period how we got to be where we're at. And we were about 2/3 of the way through that class when the great shutdown happened. And the virus hit, and obviously, as you know the rest of the story, there's no churches meeting right now, or at least most aren't meeting right now, and we're practicing our social distancing. So I didn't get the chance to finish that class. So one of the things rolling around in my mind was maybe videoing some things to those folks and sending it out to them. And I thought, well, if I'm going to do that, why not just start at the beginning? Who are we? How do we get here? And so this goes all the way back to 2012. Over 8 years ago, when the dream of Project Re3 and really being an Isaiah 58 centric ministry began. It was January, just after the first of the year, 2012. The church I was serving at the time as an associate pastor, one of my roles was to kind of oversee our college and young adult ministry. And as maybe some of you know, every January there's a huge gathering of college-age students in Atlanta, around the Atlanta, Georgia area, called the Passion Conference. And so we loaded up a van full of college students, and we drove down to Atlanta, Georgia. Amazing worship with David Crowder, Chris Tomlin. You had speakers like Andy Stanley, Louis Giglio, Christine Kane. I mean, it was going to be incredible. So as we're preparing for that trip, I'll never forget, a day or two before we left, as I was praying about the trip and praying for our students and what we were going to get a chance to experience, I felt very clearly like God was telling me, be ready. I'm going to reveal to you, Mike, what's next for you in your life. So I was excited. I was excited as these college students were. I couldn't wait to get in that van and start driving down there. And the whole way, I'm in this anticipation mode and prayer mode. All right, God, I'm just ready to hear from you. I'm ready to hear what's going to happen next in my ministry and my family and what direction we need to be going in. And so we go to the conference. And every morning we get up early and we go to the worship settings and breakout groups and more worship settings and more breakout groups. And if you've ever been to Passion, it is a lot crammed in to a few days, and powerful worship, amazing speakers, and the whole time I kept waiting. I was waiting to hear back from God, like, all right, what is that next thing going to be? I waited all the way up to the final session, and when that final session was over and everyone started piling out of the arena, I literally looked at God and just said, I think I missed something. I didn't hear a thing. We get in the van and we start driving back up here to North Carolina, and my college students are giddy with, oh man, God showed me this, or I need to be doing that, and all of these things that were going on in their lives. And I drove back, honestly, angry. I was mad because I hadn't heard a thing. And I felt like I was open. I felt like I was receptive. I took down every note I could possibly take down. I listened to every lyric of every song. I mean, every breakout group. I mean, I was just hungry and waiting for God to give me this direction that I felt like He had promised me. So we arrive back to the church, and everyone gets in their cars and goes home, and it's late. And we get home that evening, and I get home and kind of drag my suitcase in. And I remember my wife Beth asking me how it was, and I was tired and I was frustrated, and I just said, we'll talk about it later. Like, I just want to go shower and go to bed. And so that's exactly what I did. And so I went to bed that night, and I went to bed pretty easy. I was pretty exhausted. And I'll never forget, around 3 o'clock that morning, God woke me up. I know it sounds crazy, but it happened. And I woke up and I felt wide awake, and I heard the voice say, read Isaiah 58. What? And I felt it again. I just felt this in my spirit. The Lord saying, Mike, you need to read Isaiah 58. Well, of course, I dove right in and started reading. Not really. I actually went back to bed. I was like, you know what? The Bible's not going anywhere. I'm going to read it in the morning. I'm exhausted. And I went back to sleep. So I actually put God on hold. Crazy, I know. So I got up the next morning, and true to my word, the first thing I did was I reached over and grabbed my Bible and opened it up and read Isaiah 58. Now, the version of the Bible that I like to read a lot, is, especially in my time, is the Message version. And so that was the version that was right beside my bed, and that's the version I want to read to you guys right now. Put on my eyes so I can actually see to read. This comes from Isaiah chapter 58. We're going to read the first 12 verses. Shout, a full-throated shout. Hold nothing back, a trumpet blast shout. Tell my people what's wrong with their lives. Face my family Jacob with their sins. They're busy, busy, busy at worship and love studying all about me. To all appearances, they're a nation of right living people, law-abiding, God-honoring. They ask me, what's the right thing to do? And love having me on their side. But they also complain. Why do we fast and you don't look our way? Why do we humble ourselves and you don't even notice? I'm going to pause right there at verse 3. Because as I'm reading that morning, I'm getting goosebumps and tears in my eyes. Because that describes me. And that describes, honestly, the church I'm in. And it describes all the churches I know. This is something that was written thousands of years ago. But it was as relevant in 2012 as it was when Isaiah wrote it. And it's really just as relevant today. Let's pick up in verse 3. Well, here's why. The bottom line on your fast days is profit. You drive your employees much too hard. You fast, but at the same time you bicker and fight. You fast, but you swing a mean fist. The kind of fasting you do will not get your prayers off the ground. Do you think this is the kind of fast day I'm after? A day to show off humility? To put on a pious long face and parade around solemnly in black? Do you call that fasting? A fast day that I, God, would like? Man, if you're not feeling convicted, just hearing those first 5 verses, then just cut it off right now. Because that is the church, right? I mean, that is where we were at. And that's where we're at now. So verse 6, I love this. This is the kind of fast day that I'm after. To break the chains of injustice. Get rid of exploitation in the workplace. To free the oppressed and cancel debts. What I'm interested in seeing you do is sharing your food with the hungry, inviting the homeless poor into your homes, putting clothes on the shivering ill-clad, being available for your own families. Do this and the lights will turn on, and your lives will turn around at once. Your righteousness will pave your way. The God of glory will secure your passage. Then when you pray, God will answer. You will call out for help, and I'll say, here I am. If you get rid of this unfair practice, if you quit blaming victims, quit gossiping about other people's sins, if you are generous with the hungry and start giving yourselves to the down and out, your lives will begin to glow in the darkness. Your shadowed lives will be bathed in sunlight. I will always show you where to go. I will give you full life in the emptiest of places, firm muscles and strong bones. You'll be like a well-watered garden, a gurgling spring that never runs dry. You'll use the rubble of past lives to build anew. You will rebuild the foundations from out of your past. And if you wondered how we came up with Re3, and that's the RE to the third power, here you go. Isaiah 58:12. You'll be known as those who can fix anything, restore old ruins, rebuild and renovate, and make the community livable again. Restore, rebuild, and renovate. That's Re3. When I read that morning, man, I had tears in my eyes. I could barely read the words because there was something inside of my heart, this wellspring that was, man, blowing wide open because I knew this is what I was supposed to be doing. Whether it was where I was at the time, somewhere else, some other place, I knew in my heart at that moment, Isaiah 58 was written for me. Now I went back and I looked at all my notes from that Passion Conference. I studied everything I could possibly study, and as best as I could recollect, there was absolutely no mention of Isaiah 58. This is not something that was subliminally put into one of my message notes. It wasn't in any of the music. This was the voice from God, and he kept his promise true. He kept me hungry that week at Passion, waiting to hear from him. And then when all was calm and my mind and heart was settled, he woke me up and gave me this passage. So what happened next? Well, you got to wait till part 2. And that'll pop up in another day or two. And I'll kind of let you know part 2 of the story. How this Isaiah 58 ministry, mission, movement, and myself, how God kind of put it all together in one big mixing bowl. And we got to where we're at today. So thanks again. I hope you're having just an incredible start to your week. If you're on quarantine, don't kill your kids. I know I'm trying not to. Spend time with your family. Enjoy the time that God has given us. I love the fact that in the midst of all this craziness and the virus and everything else and the shutdown, it's really given us time to pause. It's given us time to decompress, to unplug, and kind of reset our lives. And I pray this morning that if you have a chance that you'll pick up your Bible, you'll go on to YouVersion or just log on the computer and read Isaiah 58. Read the Message version. And maybe it's talking to you too. Thank you.